In this episode, Banaza wakes up to his wife Fenris saying good morning, and he's startled to wonder what she's doing there. And she responded by saying that it was normal for a couple. Banaza thinks it's normal and remembers what Fenris had told him the day before. Only she had gone much further and he just said no. Fenris thinks that human relationships are complicated, and Banaza says that it seems that they are and decides to go and sleep in the hallway. He thinks that from then on, they'll have to share a room. Fenris says it's time for him to change, and she'll help him, and he says he doesn't need to. Just as she's fiddling with her blouse, Ballyrosa comes opening the door, sees the moment, and runs out apologizing. Banaza believes she had the wrong ideas. Next, we see Ballyrosa facing a gigantic boar, but as soon as she speaks, the boar is heading straight for her. Ballyrosa runs off, saying it's cowardice while she's talking. Blossom tries to attack him, and just then, Fenris asks Balano to use her defensive magic, which she uses to protect Blossom, and then Banaza asks Bilary to use his bow, but the arrow doesn't even hit the boar's body. Balano says he's feeling unwell, and that he has no more sis. The boar starts running after Blossom, and if you don't want him to run after you, subscribe to the channel to give us a psychedelic boost. Banaza says they've asked for help to train, but it looks like it's going to be more complicated than he thought. Next, we see the girls' bedroom. Bilary is very happy to see the room and Blossom sits on the bed, saying that it is very soft. Ballyrosa asks Banaza if they can really use the room. Banaza replies that there is no problem, thanks to the reward for eliminating the Psycho Bears. He had gotten that house for a very low price. Their training would take a considerable amount of time. He couldn't let them sleep on the floor. Ballyrosa says Banaza is very generous. Balano thanks him and Fenris arrives to say that the meal is on the table. But when everyone arrives, it's just raw meat, a mount boar that Fenris had just hunted. Fenris has made large pieces to commemorate the move to that house and asks them to help themselves. Banaza says they'd like something a little more cooked. Fenris asks if he wants her to roast the meat. Banaza says he doesn't need to, that he was going to do it, and Ballyrosa says he'll help. Fenris thinks that fresh meat is better when eaten raw, and Saib agrees. Banaza then thanks them for their patience and hopes they like it. Bilary says it looks very tasty. Blossom asks if Banaza had used magic to prepare it, and Banaza replies that he didn't use magic, he likes to cook and Ballyrosa helped him a lot. Ballyrosa was very skilled and impressed him. Ballyrosa says she's better at cooking than with a sword in her hand, and she tells the truth that her family is noble but penniless. They couldn't afford a cook, so they made their own food, and Blossom tells everyone to eat soon. Fenris looked on, thinking that there was no way that could be good. It was food for weak herbivores. Banaza tells Fenris that it's nutritious. He prepared the salad. Blossom says that if she didn't want to, she would eat instead. And Fenris rejects it. She wanted to eat her husband's food, even if it was leaves. After she put it in her mouth, she found it very tasty, so he told her to try the meat too. And she's shocked because the meat was so tasty. It was toasted but juicy on the inside, and the juice from the meat tasted just like honey. That flavor wasn't just obtained by roasting. And Banaza says it was Ballyrosa who did the roasting. And Ballyrosa asked if there was a problem. Fenris jealously says that the cooking is acceptable. He goes on to say that she will be the one to cook next time. For Ballyrosa, everything seemed to be fine. In town, everyone was incredulous because every time they went there, they brought many mount boars at once. Everyone in the Adventurers Guild stared incredulously at Fenris and Banaza. Fenris asked Banaza if she could take a walk around the city while they were checking it out, and Banaza didn't see a problem, asking if she wanted him to go along. She said no, because she wanted to do something personal. Until a man approaches talking to Banaza, introducing himself as Lilith from the Adventurers Guild, and asks if he has a moment to talk. Then he said he would wait for Fenris right there and said goodbye. Fenris looks at some kind of sign and says he's going to give it his all. And then Banaza and Lilith are having tea. Lilith says that everyone in town only talked about his exploits. Banaza recognizes that he went too far, and Lilith says that the palace actually contacted the guild because it wanted Banaza to be part of the great hero's force. If Banaza accepted, he would get an honorary knighthood. Banaza doesn't agree. Lilith says that until now they had never seen a pair of adventurers defeat so many rank monsters. The guild would much rather keep the pair in their employ. But it would be for the good of the whole world. It would be a great opportunity for Banaza. Banaza thinks it would be a great chance for the people of that world. But for someone who came from another world, he had no reason to have conflicts with demons. And then he apologized to Lilith, but it didn't matter to him. Lilith is shocked. Fenris finally appears, apologizing for the delay. And he asks her what happened because it looked like she was in combat. And she says it's nothing like that, she didn't know cooking was so complex. And then she remembers the cook who was saying that the way to win a man's heart was through his stomach. And then the cook tells them all to peel the vegetables, but it all seems a difficult task for Fenris. The cook tells them to dust the meat with flour, and Fenris does it all wrong again. The cook told them to cook gently over a low heat. Fenris says he doesn't have time for that, uses his ability and burns everything. Fenris couldn't accept being defeated by the human custom. She wanted to win his heart. Next, we see the great hero hearing about Fenris and Banaza and about the king being delighted with them because with their strength, the great hero could defeat the demons, and then the great hero says that he will be happy to put them at his service. A month later, they went there again, and Banaza told them that there was no point in going there, it wouldn't change, he wouldn't accept the castle's offer. And he asks them to leave. Fenris thinks they're too persistent, coming non-stop for the whole month. She thinks it would be better to give them a scare so they don't come back. Banaza says it's not necessary as they were just doing their job and says they need to get back to helping the girls with their training. And he sees Blossom weeding and says that the field seems to have been resurrected. Blossom says it's the least she can do to thank Banaza and Fenris for their help. Saib also helped. Blossom says she could leave the cultivation work to them. Banaza thinks that, on the other hand, she is not committed to sword training. Meanwhile, Bilary says she can't and Fenris says that attacking a target in a tree won't help her progress. Bilary says that the poor animals are so cute she didn't want to shoot them. Fenris says that the poultry was tender and tasty. Bilary says that Fenris always thinks with his stomach. That was beyond Bilary. Banaza calls Belano, saying that he has made a magic ring for her. He asks her to try it on, as the ring could increase her mana. And then Belano puts the ring on one of his fingers. Banaza said that one day they would try it out and see the results and turned away. Belano was about to change the finger where the ring was and Fenris came up behind her telling her not to dare put the ring on her ring finger. She couldn't even think about it. Belano is in shock, poor thing, until they hear Ballyrosa shouting for Banaza. And Fenris strikes a blow that breaks the creature in half, telling Ballyrosa to stop playing the damsel in distress, as she was capable of defeating rank sea monsters easily. Fenris says she pretends to be weak to get attention from her husband. That was very daring, and Ballyrosa asked what she was talking about. And at that moment, a cat girl who had been assigned to know everything by the demon lord was spying on everything inside the bush. Then Fenris tells them to help themselves. Blossom says that she's come a long way since the meet. Ballyrosa agrees, and Banaza thinks it's amazing, asking her when she managed to prepare all that. Fenris says that when she accompanied him to the guild, she started attending cooking classes. At first, she had thought it was just a laborious task that could easily be done with magic. But life is strange. Before Fenris only lived for combat, now she's super happy to learn things, happier than getting stronger. And she made a dish just for Banaza. And she remembers the cook saying that curry rice is perfect for winning a man's heart, that she should make it as spicy as her feelings for him. Banaza eats it and says it's delicious, that he could eat a lot of it. Fenris hugs him and says she's glad. Then the cat girl recognized that it really was Fenris. Fenris was the most formidable warrior in the demon lord's army, and the cat girl couldn't understand what had gotten into her head to be surrounded by humans. But at that moment Fenris is behind her, asking what Ulluminus is doing there. Banaza pours some tea for Ulluminus, who thanks him, saying that it was very hot. Fenris asks what the reason for the visit is. The Demon Lord's assistant probably had better things to do than just walk around, and Ulluminus says she came to observe the surroundings and saw Fenris by chance. And Fenris says she lives there with her beloved husband. Ulluminus is shocked when Fenris says he's her husband, and Fenris wonders if she hasn't come to get in the way. And Ulluminus said no and drank the tea again, saying it was too hot. Ulluminus thinks Fenris has changed a lot, and the boy isn't afraid of being around demons. And she doesn't understand why she can't get information out of him, because even with the Demon Lord she could get information. Ulluminus didn't see any beasts in the Delevza forest. Things have changed a lot. And Banaza says that the purification spell he used worked. Ulluminus is shocked that he has used the purification spell and asks if Fenris knows about it, as Banaza ended up killing Fenris' brother Fengarir and his troop with this spell. Fenris tells Ulluminus to shut up. Banaza asks if it was true and if Fenris knew about it. Fenris replied that few humans were capable of casting a purification spell, so she was suspicious. Her brother was a lupine warrior. He would probably hate it if they mourned his fate. And Fenris says that she chose her husband as her master because she admired his strength and nothing would change her feelings for him. The girls are at the door listening to everything. They had no idea that Rise was Fenris. Banaza wonders if they're all right. Ulluminus thinks that man was a threat and Fenris has become an enemy too. Ulluminus asks if Banaza wouldn't like a duel, as she wants to know the strength of the one Fenris has chosen. But Fenris won't let her because she knows who Ulluminus is. However, they agree to have a duel, and the rule was that the duel would last until one of them gave up. Ulluminus advances, tries to attack with her skill, but Banaza disperses the two spells she cast, and he then uses the skill on her, and she surrenders. The next day, Banaza apologizes to the girls because she didn't know if they would get into trouble if they found out that Rise was Fenris. If they wanted to notify the castle, Banaza said there would be no problem. Fenris says that she had sworn loyalty to her husband. She no longer belonged to the Demon Lord's army. Dalirosa says that as knights they have an obligation to notify the castle, but if the person has no bad intentions, she doesn't see a problem. Blossom said that they had talked to each other before, and Fenris had helped them a lot, so they were very grateful to her. They couldn't denounce someone who had helped them, and they all agree. Banaza thanks the girls. And Fenris hears something, and when everyone goes outside, it's Ulluminus with the legion of dragons from the Demon Lord's army. Ulluminus said that if they swore allegiance to the Demon Lord, she would spare them, but Banaza didn't care what she said. He was just impressed by the dragons, and Fenris asked if they didn't have any in his world. Banaza said that they did, but at most he had only seen scales used on rare objects. Ulluminus wonders why they are so unconcerned and decides to kill them using the power of the dragons, but Banaza doesn't fight back, attacking all the dragons at once. Ulluminus is shocked because he defeated the army's dragons in an instant, and the one that was left fled. Blossom wanted the title of Dragon Slayer, and Banaza helps her, and she actually manages to win the title, leaving all the girls impressed to see that Blossom had achieved such a title. Meanwhile, the Demon Lord saw everything through a crystal ball. The Demon Lord rises from his throne and makes his next move.